How's it going? Today, I don't have too much time, unfortunately, but I wanted to go over a couple of videos and an article. This first one, is from Steve Lato. The title of the video, Court Orders City to Let Man Open His Repair Shop. And this happened somewhere in Texas. And the city says that this guy with no employees, it's just him, it's a one-man operation. He bought the place for like $80,000. He dipped into his life savings to be able to get the place. And it has 5 places for parking. Tells him he needs 23 more for a total of 28, something along those lines. But over 20. Because some random arbitrary person who got into politics made this decision for every single business out there. Well, the courts say no, you can't do that. And I think it's because, let me find it. What this is a case by the Institute of Justice, which I've seen their channel before, and it seems like they have quite a few good cases. And they won a previous case which allowed them to kind of win this one, so I'll let him say this.
Short 2015 victory, Patel versus Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. The Texas Supreme Court ruled that the state's constitution prohibits irrational and unduly burdensome economic regulations. That victory in Patel helped make...
That's great, man. I love it. Texas is just really big on people doing what they want. I hate the lack of accountability that these politicians have, that they can just say these absolutely stupid things, get it passed because there are all these people who have no idea what they're talking about, and then you have this stupid stuff. Are there some cases where maybe there does need to be some kind of parking to help with the business, such as like maybe some kind of hospital or clinic for some reason? It's like, well, there could be. But if there's no reason, if everything is fine, and these politicians continue to push it anyways because they want some kind of fake kudo points, where's the repercussions for their nonsense, for their misdeeds, for their lying, for their whatever it is that's going on? Where is it? It's like something should happen. If it happens enough, they should be removed from office. They should be barred. That they should, if they were once lawyers and it's like they know better than this, it's like you should lose your ability to practice law. They should be fined. Or they should help these people recuperate out of their own pockets any harm that they've done. It's not that difficult. All we have to do is look at, well, what if the situation was reversed in some way? What if these were 2 people engaged in this, or 2 businesses, anyone besides these politicians? What would happen to them? That would be a great starting point as to what should happen to these politicians. Then there's this other video. This is what they don't teach you about colonization, and this is Thomas Sowell TV. And he talks about how, and this is a much older one. He's much younger here, this 70s, maybe the 80s. Same things that they talk about with colonization and spreading things around. And he talks about how whenever the Romans invaded England, that they prospered, and now London is what it is. But the Scots lived up in the Scotlands, and so they were never conquered, and they stayed kind of like their version of country hillbillies. And that whenever colonization came around, yeah, there was bad, but there was good too. And you know what the good was? Was that area learned all of the things that this more advanced civilization had learned, which they got to benefit from. And it's like, well, Why don't we work on something like that? Why don't we help people with being able to have good, accurate, up-to-date information at their fingertips so that they can provide better lives for themselves? So he's asking the question that if you kind of watch politics a little bit, you've heard this before, that with colonialization, they come in and they kind of strip the resources and they take it from the locals. And it's like, yeah, and what? They don't learn anything in the process? You don't think that they get paid more than what they normally would if they hadn't come in the first place? So let's see what Thomas has to say in regards to this.
Exploitation, economic exploitation. How do you handle those arguments?
Well, insofar as the arguments are meant seriously, you can simply look at evidence. But insofar as they're purely political arguments, they're saying what people want to hear. Obviously, there are people who would much rather hear that than to hear the other, because if you think that's the problem, then there's only a quicker solution, but there's a more emotionally and morally satisfying solution. And then you fight against the exploiters and so on.
And that seems to be the case even still today, is that there are too many people who are they're basing their decisions off of their emotions instead of what the evidence really says. And part of it is because what else have we had? Back whenever this interview was going on, computers weren't around. There was no internet at all whatsoever. The internet did not, I didn't have access to the internet until after I came back from the military in like the 2000s. But, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it's like, there wasn't any of that crap. I bought my first computer whenever I was in the Army, and it's like, we talked about it. I remember talking about it with the other guys. It's like, well, what is it? You can type in stuff, and it'll pull information up, and it's like, yeah, I did not understand it as to how that worked, and basically what they were talking was Google search, but they didn't have Google. It started off with Yahoo searches, AOL searches, and Ask Jeeves was kind of the first big one that kind of popped up. And it was like, what? Now I understand it, of course. I mean, it's been around for long enough, and they've cleaned it up a lot more.
You look at the third world, for example. Those parts of the third world where the imperialist powers have come in have typically been the more advanced parts of it. They've been the most prosperous ones. Even if they weren't prosperous before they got there, they became the more prosperous parts. Those parts of the third world that the imperialists have never touched are, almost without exception, the very poorest places on this earth.
Good example of this is over there in South Africa, where you have South Africa with Cape Cod and all this, and those, I forgot where they hail from. I think they were Dutch descendants that they colonized that. And it's where they are, they're thriving. Even with the black people that live there, they thrive and do better than the blacks that are in the other neighboring countries. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about where colonization came in, those areas do better. And kind of the further you get away from that, and it's not just in like South America or South Africa, but like I was saying with Europe, with Britain and the Romans.
So you don't find any explanation for poverty and colonialism. The reverse, perhaps.
Oh, absolutely. But when the Romans, for example, invaded the British Isles, they conquered the southern part of Britain, but they never conquered Scotland. And for centuries thereafter, perhaps for 1,000 years thereafter, Scotland was far behind England in economic and cultural development, because England had the advantage of tying into the whole Roman civilization, and everything that it created, to some extent, percolated down through the British. That doesn't mean the British were happy with the Romans being there. 1,000 years later, Churchill could say, London's a Rome, but that's 1,000 years later. And
yeah, and it has nothing to do with sex, color, or any of that other stuff. It's about the actions that are being taken. It's like the actions were that they brought their people in who shared their experiences from back home, from the conquering place. The Romans came in and they built their things, and they introduced their economy and their number system, and they adapted, and it made things better for them, especially in the long run. It's like, yeah, were they bad slave masters, perhaps the Romans to the British there? It's like, I don't know, probably so, because I think that's kind of the way that they were to everybody. I mean, they don't have, what is that, the great Colosseum there in Rome for nothing. I mean, they were sacrificing Christians to lions, for example. So, and then he talks about later, this is somebody who's reading about it, about how in many places in Europe, they had navigable waterways. And so you could trade, and not just in goods and services, but also trade in ideas and inventions, so you could make things better. And this is something that Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about as well. And so in this video here, it's Jordan Peterson on climate change, and he is at Cambridge or somewhere talking to a group of students, and some stupid boy stood up and said something that was absolutely ridiculous, and he just throttles him. And part of his response here at the end is about whenever they did this with the UN Council on how to spend like $75 billion, that it all went to child nutrition and to elevate third world countries. So we'll listen to it in his own words.
I like what Lomborg did way better. I think it's way more intelligent. So, maybe if you increase child nutrition enough and you produce another, 10 million geniuses as a consequence of that, and maybe then they'll figure out what to do about global warming. But I'm serious about that, It's not a bad thing to increase the total sum of human brain power, And so we treat these things so lightly. Well, let's fix the planet. Well, we're going to concentrate on global warming. Well, why global warming? Well, because everyone thinks that's the biggest catastrophe. Well, maybe it is, but if you don't have a solution, well, then what about all those other problems? What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's all emotional. And it doesn't matter who says it. It doesn't matter if it's a white person, a black person, man, woman, whether if it was back in the 80s or present day in, the 2010s, because he did that. He did that in 2019 or 18 or something like that. It's a little old now. This isn't the original one. It looks like this one is. This is Professor Jordan Peterson clips. I don't know if this is him or not, or if this is someone else, but yeah, and so climate change, United Nations, whatever. It's like I want the best people on the job, and how many people are not given their full potential because they're not given those opportunities, such as a good education and being well nourished. And people do this all the time. They want to send food to Africa. It's like, no, that's a system of enabling. They need to be able to agriculture their own land, be able to make their own food, so then that way they're not reliant on anybody else. And how's a good way to do that? By freeing them so that they can do whatever it is that they need done for themselves. Because, for example, just with farming, the land and the nutrients and the rainfall that they have is different than what we have here. And so they have to have their own practices and their own machines to take care of what it is that they can grow there. Just like, we grow like corn and potatoes here, but in Asian countries, it's really big on rice. And so there's different machines and different practices for that. So what do they need there in Africa? It's like, well, I don't know, but that's something that they can figure out like everyone else. And there's, millions and millions of people, hundreds of millions, probably, how many people live in third world countries? Probably billions. If you take a look at India alone, it has over 1 billion people in it just right there. And so if you were able to feed them and educate them all properly, how many geniuses would spring from that, and how many of them would be able to actually figure out some of these problems that we're dealing with? You know what doesn't solve problems? It's just screaming and yelling off a bunch of platitudes. And so then finally with this last one here, this is an article that I saw, and so this is from Microsoft, the Associated Press. Democrats see no reason to wait on Supreme Court vote. And this is by Mary Clark Jelinek. I don't know. But anyways, the Washington AP Supreme Court nominee Kenesha Brown Jackson began courting senators on Capitol Hill, making her case for confirmation in private meetings as Democrats move her through the Senate within weeks. And it's like, why are these meetings in private, for one? It's like, this isn't top secret information. This isn't like national security. You're dealing with somebody who's going to be making decisions that's going to concern every single person within the United States. Makes no sense to me at all whatsoever. Whenever I see something like that, all I think is there's something nefarious going on with what it is that they're doing. It's like there doesn't need to be any behind the doors transactions going on. No, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's like I want the most competent, capable people for the jobs. And so Senate Democrats concerned about their narrow 50-50 majority, Vice President Kamala Harris breaks the tie, announced Wednesday that Jackson's hearing will begin March 21st, just 3 weeks after President Joe Biden nominated her to replace retiring Justice Stephen Breyer, with the goal of an April confirmation. They are using Justice Amy Barrett's quick confirmation ahead of the 2020 presidential election as a model for Jackson, who could be the first black woman to serve as a justice of the court's 200-plus year history. It's like, I hate all this crap. I hate every last of it. What does her being black or being a woman have to do with a damn thing? Let me give a very personal, real-world example of this. Whenever my mother was dying from cancer, I didn't give two shits whether the person who had the cure for cancer was black, woman, straight, gay, fat, tall, thin, short. I didn't care. So I just want the answer. And you know who's going to have the answer? Somebody who's actually going to go through the work and doing it. And maybe they'll get it and maybe they won't. But I didn't care not for 1 second about any of this crap that no people have any control over. No one has control over their X or Y chromosomes, what color their skin is, where it is that they were born. It means absolutely nothing. I want to hear about what makes this person qualified versus the other candidates. How long did they work? What kind of cases did they hear? How did those rulings end up? Or did they rule on it and then later find out that, no, this was trash and here's why? I want to know some facts. I want to know about what she was ruling on and what the criticisms were versus the other candidates. I don't want to hear about me. I don't want to hear about you or anyone else. I want to know about this judge versus the other judges. And if she's the best one for the job, then so be it. But I don't give two damns about what's between her legs or the color of her skin. And whenever I read something like this, it makes me think that this person may not know a damn thing, because if this person is so awesome and so great, then why aren't they leading with that? So as far as I'm concerned, this article by the Associated Press is nothing but racist, sexist bigotry, 100% through and through, because if they were great, then why didn't you say so? And maybe later down the road they did, but they should have let off with it. I don't care what the rest of it has to say. This is nothing but hatred and bigotry, period, point blank. And so I want good, accurate, up-to-date information on all these damn politicians and all these stupid ideas and what's going on, because going through all this is such a grind. It's like whenever I'm learning something about how to build something new or whatever, it's like I have to grind through all this stuff to find out just how to paint metal, because it's different if it's going to be something that's going to be in the ground, if it's going to be outside above ground, if it's going to be in your home. Do you have to primer it? Does it need to be epoxy or acid etched or whatever? And you can find 50 videos and articles with every last one of them. You get a little snippet of it, and it's like, I'm tired of it. I want to know what's the best, accurate, up to date, because there are people that they post these videos and they give their 2 cents on all this stuff, and it's great, but it's scattered all over the place. It needs to be in one local place. And so if you too would like this, if you understood all this that I've been talking about, then all I need you to do is just give the video a like, subscribe and become a member, and come by and say hi every now and then, see what's going on with the channel, and then just share it with someone. That's it for now. That's good. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye.